Becca, and this is my BookTube. Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Welcome back if you are seeing this video after watching your previous one. Welcome if you are new here. Welcome to a change of scenery if you have previously seen me in front of my bookshelves. Also, I'm going to apologize ahead of time if you end up hearing a bunch of noise from my dogs. Honestly just didn't want to go through all the hassle of setting everything up in my bedroom, and I have the house to myself right now, so I was just taking advantage of setting up in the living room today instead of my usual bookshelf setup. Today I just wanted to give you guys a couple book recommendations, specifically leaning towards April coming to a close. For a lot of people, April is Autism Awareness Month, and that's something that is very close and personal to me. Both myself and my dad are on the high functioning autism spectrum. It's something that I feel like affected very, very strongly a lot of my childhood. I think it definitely strongly affected a lot of my teenage years, and times when my mental health has been in a big decline have been the times when I've struggled with it the most. But becoming aware of it when I was 18 was when we found out my dad was on the autism spectrum, and that was also kind of around the time that my whole family kind of did a self-reflection, and I realized I was on the autism spectrum and did some digging into that. It really revealed a lot of things that I was struggling with internally that I kind of needed more guidance on, with how to adapt and how to read certain situations and stuff like that. Prior to finding that out, and really for a very long time, I don't think I ever really saw myself represented in media in a way that made sense to me. And there have been some times where I feel like TV shows have tried to represent autism and have done an okay job, but you know, it's not a singular experience. Not everyone experiences being on the high functioning autism spectrum in the same way. Someone could watch something presented in media and really feel seen, whereas it might not resonate as much with me. I am going to talk to you very briefly about a couple characters that I feel like gave me a very positive reflection, really made me feel seen and very well represented in literature, and they're all very recent literature as well. So the first one is Astrid from A Taste of Poison by Tessonja Odette. I read this book because it's part of a fairy tale retelling standalone series that Tessonja does. I was already reading a lot of her books. I really enjoyed her other ones, and when A Taste of Poison came out, I just read it because it was her next release, and I was like, well, I already loved the other ones. I'm excited to read this one. What I didn't know going into it, because she didn't really advertise it this way, she was putting a lot of autism representation into the character of Astrid. Astrid is half fae, so she has some magical abilities, and one of her magical abilities is essentially masking. There's this element to her character where people don't really know what her face actually looks like, because she can kind of like magically sense from other people what they need to see from her, and then will kind of magic an appearance for herself to look a certain way to meet someone else's visual need, essentially, or emotional need. And as I was reading it, it wasn't even presented as masking, but as I was reading it, I was like, oh, this is masking. This is her ability to look at someone and kind of meet or match what they need from her. And then she also had this thing that a lot of people with high functioning autism have, which is being presented with a dangerous situation and not registering how dangerous it is, and kind of diving headfirst into something that is not great. There's this other fae character in the story who can shapeshift into a massive, terrifying grizzly bear, and when she meets him and he shapeshifts into a bear, she is just like, oh my gosh, you're so cute. Can I pet your ears? They look very soft. And there's just this complete obliviousness to the danger of the situation, because her mind can only see, I would like to pet this bear. It's very much the "can I pet that dog?" coded meme, except the book came out before that meme happened. So, yeah, so she has other situations in the book where she kind of dives headfirst into a dangerous scenario without her brain telling her, oh, this is dangerous, because her logical mind is like, oh no, I'm free from harm because of X, Y, and Z. I'll be fine. It's okay. So I remember reading that and feeling very seen as an autistic woman. And I reached out and was able to talk to the author, and she did tell me that it was a very intentional representation of high-functioning autism, and it was so cool to really see that and to feel a beautiful connection to this fictional character that was demonstrating something that was very real to me. She also kind of had a little bit of like sensory issues and stuff like that, and so it was very cool to see that represented. And then I will say for a very long time, I don't feel like I had seen anything else that really resonated with me as much until recently when I read Scorched Roses by Carissa Broadbent. So the two main characters in that, we actually meet in Ashes in the Star-Cursed King, the second book in her first Crowns of Nyaxia series. And it's like split into little duologies, but this one was kind of a novella, and I don't feel like we really had the chance to get to know the main character. Her name is Lilith. In that book, she was very much a side character. We didn't get a lot of interaction from her necessarily. We get to know her as the main character in this book, and she is definitely very much, I feel like a representation of women on the autism spectrum. She is very logically minded. She feels very deeply, but I feel like doesn't always know how to access those deep emotions. It can be very difficult as someone with autism to feel your emotions and really allow them to permeate the surface, because it comes with a lot of overwhelm. Her character was also very science-minded, very book-minded, very logical, was very driven in her pursuit of knowledge in a way that she would talk about neglecting her need for food or her need for hygiene. And I mean, that can happen with a lot of different things with a lot of different people, but there is definitely a struggle with people who are neurodivergent, ADHD, autism, different kinds of things, where you get consumed by something mentally and everything else falls to the wayside. So it was really great to see her represented. She also had a little bit of the official term for people who don't recognize dangerous situations or don't respond emotionally to something until kind of like the last minute or in an aftermath effect of it, is called alexithymia. It's something that a lot of people with high functioning autism deal with. And yeah, she also dealt with a little bit of an alexithymia scenario because she is human and she's interacting with a vampire character. She has moments where she kind of acknowledges, like, maybe this is not the safest scenario for me to be in, but doesn't have that gut fear reaction to it. She's just like, well, if it's dangerous, it's dangerous, and if it's not, I guess it's fine. Because she also believes that death is going to be coming for her at any minute, so she's kind of like in a mental space where she doesn't necessarily fear her life ending. Because without giving away too much of the story, it's revealed kind of in the beginning, but when she was born very ill, and people didn't think she would live very long. So the age that she does end up getting to in her life, she's like, well, I've already passed the stage where people told me I should have died anyways, so anything beyond this is lucky, and if I die, it was supposed to happen already. She has a lot of really, I think, powerful autism traits. I feel like she also is she does a good representation of autism in the sense that, like, unfortunately, people on the autism spectrum can come across as very cold when it comes to relationships, in the sense that we can see that someone else wants something from us emotionally, we may not be able to offer it to them. Sorry, my camera keeps losing focus and it's making me paranoid that this whole video is going to get ruined by that. She also, I can't remember if I can't remember if it was in this book or in a different one that I am also going to talk about, but she works very hard to make like direct eye contact when she's speaking to people, which is something that a lot of people who are neurodivergent struggle with. I know it's something I struggled with growing up. I would look at like people's shoulders when I spoke to them because in my mind it was close enough to their face that they could tell I was talking to them, but I didn't have to make direct eye contact. But then people pointed it out and were teasing me about it, so I had to force myself to make eye contact. It was a skill I had to adapt and learned to have. But yeah, her representation, I think, was really, really good in the conversation around emotional attachment and emotional availability, as well as touching on, how intelligence and logic driven a lot of people on the autism spectrum are, especially women. So yeah, that was six Scorched Roses. And then the other book that I read this past month, I actually DNF'd because it had a few too many scenarios where it was like, I don't like books where I feel like we take a long walk and then we get into a fight, and then we take a long walk and then we get into a fight, and then we take a long walk and then we get into a fight. That's what it felt like was happening. It was Blade of Secrets by Tricia Levenseller, and I really like her Daughter of the Pirate Queen books. And I did read The Shadows Between Us recently, it was okay. But Blade of Secrets was something that was available on Kindle Unlimited, and the description seemed super interesting. I didn't track it in the description as something that would have autism representation, but then when I started to read it and I was reading the perspective of the main character, I was like, oh, she's definitely autistic. And it was super exciting to me to get to read this perspective from this character. She, really struggled with social interaction. She leaned heavily on her sibling to facilitate a lot of social interactions for her, which is not necessarily something I relate to because I am definitely more outgoing for the autism spectrum. But I will say that for a very long time, I leaned on my sisters and my mom to kind of explain social situations to me, and I would have to have friends explain social situations to me that I wasn't really perceiving correctly, or explaining like that so-and-so said this thing to me and I really didn't understand what was going on, and then they would have to go, oh well, you have to understand when someone says something like that, this is what's going on. So she was relying heavily on her sister. She had like sensory issues, she didn't like people in her space, had a lot of like internal spiral conversations and stuff, and felt very anxious speaking with people. And then there was this other thing that happens is she does start to like this one guy in the story, and he kind of seems to like her back, and she keeps doing this internal monologue when she's around him where she essentially gaslights herself out of thinking that he could like her. And I did not realize until I was reading that I was like, oh my gosh, yes, I have 100% done that with so many different scenarios, whether it's a friendship or someone that I thought I liked that I would hope would like me back, but then I would talk myself out of it, and I would be like, logically, no, they definitely don't like me. It's got to be this reason, this reason, this reason. They just need to talk to me because of this, or they're only interacting with me because of this. Even to the point that people could tell me that they liked me, that they wanted to be friends with me. They could be very direct in their communication, but my autism brain was like, no, probably not. You're probably not reading this correctly, and that person doesn't really want to like you. That person doesn't really want to be your friend. They're just this. And so that was very cool to read. I really, really loved the autism representation. I know a lot of other people that that I'm friends with on Bookstagram felt very seen in this character. I just unfortunately was losing interest in the plot and had to DNF. But as far as it being a great representation of autism, Also had a really cool magic system as far as like who could use magic and what they could use it for. Very cool, very exciting. I really wish I cared more about the plot and wasn't, you know, losing interest in it, because I really wanted to be able to finish. And I will say that I didn't skip to the end like I normally do. What I did is, because I know there's a sequel out for it, I went and looked up the like plot summary description on the like Kindle Unlimited page for the second book to see, you know, it will say, you know, after the events of Blade of Secrets where X, Y, and Z happened, now the characters have to recover from this event and get to this thing. And as I was reading what that was, I was like, yeah, not something that I'm super excited to read. So I DNF'd that. I think probably a little past the halfway mark. Oh, alright. According to my Kindle, I made it to the 71% mark, which I feel like was enough for me. But anyways, this was just a super brief video. I might actually end up posting it late with how late I'm recording it. Normally I record my videos prior to Sunday or Monday, so that Sunday/Monday I can make sure I get all my edits done and then I can post it by Monday. And right now it is almost 11:30 on Monday. So I don't have anything going on. Hopefully I can sit down and do a quick edit of this, clean and cut and dry for you guys to be posted on Monday on schedule, mostly for myself actually, because I'm just trying to be consistent. Happy end of April, happy Autism Awareness Month. Hopefully this was informative, and if you are someone who is on the autism spectrum or has someone close to you that's on the autism spectrum, I really hope you'll check these books out. I guess I can give a couple warnings. A Taste of Poison does have sexual content in it, if that's something you prefer to avoid in a book. You might be able to Google which chapters to skip, because they're not super relevant to the autism part. Scorched Roses kind of had sexual content in it, but I feel like it was not explicit. And then I don't actually know what the sexual content level was in Blade of Secrets. I'll say that it was basically nothing up until 71%. Characters like each other and talk about the possibility of kissing each other, the possibility of each other's hands touching outer body parts. Nothing super intimate, but yeah, they were an excellent representation of the female experience of the high-functioning autism spectrum, at least from my personal perspective. I know from my personal experience of how my brain works and how my emotions work and how that affects me and like my interactions with other people. I felt very seen in all three of these characters. So check them out, or tell other people that you know, if you know a woman with autism who really just wants to feel seen and understood, see herself represented in literature. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye. Oh shoot, I have to do my intro thing. We will do this so far with this. No, it won't work. Stay in focus. Stay in focus. Please stay in focus. Okay. Things that I had struggled with internally that excuse me. Okay. This video is not going to have very many bloopers, that's sad. Would you like to see my doggies? Oh, so cute doggy. Oh, so cute. He's a cat dog. Cat